Our coverage continues with storm chaser Aaron Rigsby.
And Aaron, if it wasn't for that little banner right next to one of your elbows there that says Atlanta, Georgia, I mean, if I could guess what city was behind you, it looks like Cincinnati, maybe, where you were just earlier in the week. Or was that last week? My days are getting confused here. I think that was earlier this week, was it not, Aaron?
Yeah, absolutely, guys. I feel you on the days of the week thing. This year has already been off to such a busy start. I've just lost track of what day it is anymore. And I tell you guys, I am very impressed at the amount of snow accumulated already. I mean, the original forecast was about an inch, maybe an inch and a half before we see that transition to freezing rain and sleet. And I tell you, I think we're going to exceed that. I mean, the roads are just completely covered in this slushy snow. I can see a sheet of ice underneath of it. And I've already seen issues all across the metro, cars trying to make their way up little hills and then having to back up or just sliding backwards. The highways are completely snow covered because, kind of like how we talked about a couple hours ago, is they're just not equipped to deal with this kind of snow. And honestly, this is falling at a much heavier pace than even I was expecting for the storm system before it transitioned to freezing rain and sleet.
They can surprise you there, Aaron.
Yeah, and I will say the dark blue's setting up right over you right now in Atlanta, so you're going to get a little bit more of that here to come. I was guessing now we're kind of in the throes of what would be a typical morning rush hour. How has this fared, at least as you've been out and about towards downtown?
Well, for a normal day, I can tell a lot of the businesses and school districts have closed down because for being, at this hour in the major metropolitan area of Atlanta, Georgia, I can definitely tell there's less traffic out. But kind of like how we talked about before, we have a lot of essential workers out. Hospitals have to stay open. Grocery stores have to stay open. And it's been a very slow commute. And I'm starting to really see a lot of those issues start to stack up, especially on the maps. I'm starting to see a lot more backups that I'm going to be investigating here across the next half hour to an hour or so and documenting those as they come in and keep everyone informed on those road conditions and keep as many people off the roads as we possibly can with those real-time updates.
Aaron, what kind of vehicles are you seeing out there? I would think if you live in Atlanta, the first thought is not, I need to get all-wheel drive, I need to get four-wheel drive. What vehicles have been kind of struggling in the snow there?
There's definitely been a lot of front and rear-wheel drive sports cars that have been really having a hard time, making their way up those hills and sliding all across those roadways. And, out in Colorado where I live now, we have a lot of snow tires and all-terrain tires. And if you live in Atlanta, Georgia, that's probably the last thing on your mind to have. So, a lot of those folks are going to be, unfortunately, dealing with those kind of conditions for pretty much the latter part of the day and into the evening hours.
And you've talked about this a little bit earlier, but we have had a cold week there in Atlanta. We have another cold week coming up for a city that's known by its nickname as Hot Atlanta. How have people been preparing for this?
Yeah, absolutely. So in northern Georgia, as I was making my way down here last night before stores started to close for the evening, a lot of the bread and non-perishable foods had been flying off the shelves and were virtual ghost towns, almost similar to what we see with hurricane preparations. And one thing I noticed too, especially down here, is a lot of the space heaters were completely empty off of those shelves. So not only folks are preparing for the current snowstorm ongoing, there's going to be a shot of cold air coming in behind this. And I think a lot of folks are taking it very seriously, hunkering down and watching over their loved ones, especially the elder folks, which we talk so much about. They're especially prone to these cold conditions that are going to be making their way into the southeast as the week continues.
And Aaron, we can only hope that people are using those space heaters, and if it comes to the generators, safely here to prevent any more issues after the storm leaves. We appreciate your reporting live in Atlanta, where you could think it would be a city much farther north, as we can hear Aaron surprised too by just the amount of snow that's coming down right now in Atlanta.